let's flip the script a little bit. And it feels weird to talk about this, but the San Jose Sharks get a win last night. And yet here we are talking about a complete teardown that's likely going to happen in that organization. Pierre Lebrun from TSN saying yesterday that, and I'm paraphrasing a little, but the Sharks are open to pretty much anything that doesn't involve Tomas Hertl. And my mind immediately jumps to a guy who's at the bottom of their stats page right here, but Timo Meier, just 1 goal in his first 10 games. He scored it last night. For me, he's 26 years old. He's proven that he can be a top line guy for stretches in this league. Even if you're going into this big rebuild, in 3 years, he'll still be in his 20s. He could probably still help you coming out of this rebuild. I look at Timo Meier as the ultimate sign of where things will go in San Jose. If you trade him, you are committing to suck for the next 5 years. If you keep him, maybe there's a chance this is an LA Kings style rebuild where you just keep the core pieces, get some young talent in here, and boom, you're back in the playoff hunt in a couple of years. Meier is the big deciding factor for me. Mike, when you look at this list of players who could be available for San Jose, do you agree with me? Is Meier the name that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Well, he's the one that I think has trade value. And the problem for me is that Meyer's pretty inconsistent in my eyes. I've seen him disappear in games. I've seen him be unbelievable in games. He's got to be physically engaged if he's at his best. What if you're Mike Greer, the GM of the Sharks, if you look at your lineup and go, who do I need to keep? I don't think Meyer's on that list. Like, I think Hurdle's on the list just because you're not going to move that contract, and he's probably going to be the linchpin going forward. So who's left? I mean, Karlsson at $11.5 million. How are you ever going to move that deal? That just seems like an albatross. Does anybody in the league want Logan Couture at $8 million? I wouldn't. Who else? Vlasic. Okay. Vlasic said he wasn't used properly last year by Bob Bugner. Well, Vlasic has 0 points in 10 games this year as DAS 5. So, like, I don't know who on this roster is going to garner a whole lot of anything on the trade market. But if you can get it, and if you're Mike Greer, I think you need to do it. They need, in my eyes, they shouldn't have signed Hertl last year. They should have traded him, gotten first round picks, done the full rebuild. But that was before Greer. You can't look back. You can only look forward. So I don't want to say he's stuck with Hertl. I like Hertl. That's a good player to have. But everybody else, man, clean house, start blank. Look at the Sens. Like, look at the trajectory of that team. This is something that the Sharks could do, and they could mimic that rebuild.
Yeah, and with Meier, like I do like him. I think maybe you could keep him around, but you're right. Like no one else there is going to get you multiple good assets. And if you let a team negotiate with Meier and get him signed to an extension, you're probably getting maybe not quite an Alex DeBrincat-esque return, but multiple solid assets. I want quickly before we switch to the next topic. Erik Karlsson has 9 points in 10 games. Am I crazy for thinking that if the Sharks kept half, he'd be a $5.75 million defenseman? I think there's a chance a contender bites on him at that price.
You're crazy. There's too many years left.
Yeah,
not going to
that's
happen.
probably right. 4 more years after this one left for Erik Karlsson, who is, as you can see from the board, not quite the Erik Karlsson that we remember from his Ottawa days.